So I recently finished reading the Another books. These are the books that were used as the basis for the 2012 horror anime Another. And I wanted to talk about these books here. So very briefly with the first one, this one is the one that most people are going to be familiar with because it's the first book in the series. This is really, really good. I think this is the strongest of all three books. If you liked the anime, I would give this one a read. It's like 88 out of 100. It's wonderful. I really liked it. I don't want to get into it too much because many people are very familiar with that book. I mostly want to talk about the two sequel stories. The first one is Another S/0. This one has two sections. So there's a manga section in the back and then a light novel in the front. The manga section is very short and doesn't really add anything to the main story, but it's a fine little additional piece of another media or another content. Another SO takes place during the beach episode of the anime, which isn't in the actual novel. It's just a period where Mei goes on vacation. And it introduces a new character named Sue Hiratsuka. That's basically the main purpose of this whole book. It's a little bit slow given the content there, and the twist at the end is not very good, but if you enjoyed the first book, this is definitely worth reading just as a supplementary piece of media. I'd give that one like 60 out of 100, something around that. But I want to spend most of my time talking about this book. This is Another 2001, and it's a direct sequel to Another. It takes place 3 years afterwards. Another takes place in 1998. This takes place in 2001. This book here follows the same character introduced at the end of Another S/0, Sue Hiratsuka. He moves to Yomiyama, and he is in class 3-3. And so this follows his journey through the calamity. And so, as you might expect, him having a relationship with Mei, he knows what to expect going into the year. And so there's less mystery involved in this book, but it gives much more time for the author to flesh out the characters in the story. And so you feel more attached to each of the people as the calamity takes lives. Because of that, character work in this is really good, but the sense of mystery is definitely lacking compared to the first book. I think that if you liked the first book, this one is still worth reading, especially because of what it sets up at the end. It's kind of setting up for a third and final main series book here, and the character that they introduce that I believe would be the protagonist in the final book is more interesting than Sue, in my opinion. Speaking of Sue, I think he is a worse protagonist than Koichi, but I think he's also a more interesting character. Due to the events of what happened in S/0, he has some sort of associative personality disorder, and that makes him a less consistent and less reliable narrator than Koichi. And so it makes it interesting to follow him, but his incompetence as a protagonist at times I find kind of obnoxious. There is another twist at the end of this book, and it's almost as good as the first book's twist at the end, but it's also much more obvious. There's some small details to it that are less obvious, but the main twist you'll probably guess halfway through the story, which is a little bit disappointing, especially because it takes Sue all the way until the end to figure it out. They really have to spell it out for him. But overall, if you liked Another, I'd still give this one 80 out of 100 or 8 out of 10. It's still very good. But that's pretty much it. If you guys liked the anime, I would highly recommend reading Another 2001. Thank you.